So, I love Fruits Basket. I absolutely adore this show so much. I remember hearing that before the show was released, it was a remake of an older version that had been based on a best-selling manga. So, my expectations were kinda high. Hearing praise left and right from old fans rejoicing that their favorite childhood anime was getting a remake more focused on retelling the manga storyline. When I watched the first episode, I immediately loved Tohru Honda. Tohru is a bright-eyed, sympathetic, sweet girl who is the main character in the show. What we learn from the first episode is that Tohru is an extremely selfless person, who would prefer to live on her own rather than become a guest at the Soma house out of fear of becoming a burden. We also learn about her past, more so her mother, who died in a car crash which resulted in Tohru living in a tent. This sudden death struck a chord in Tohru's life, who decides to carry on her mother's way of living, that being to be kind and accepting of everyone around her. Throughout the show, Tohru's ability to bring out the best in people is her most defining attribute. She is extremely kind, forgiving, and optimistic. So at the end of the first episode, I was basically left crying. I'm not exactly sure what it was. I'm not exactly sure if I was brought to tears because of Tohru, her mom, or that magnificent ED that should have been in the Anime Awards Don't At Me, but I will say this. I can't think of an episode where I haven't been brought to tears because of Tohru and her influence over others. Which brings me to the title of this video. Recently, the Crunchyroll Awards just aired to another year of mixed responses. Like, seriously, where the hell is B-Stars? I mean, like, come on, man! That show could have fit into, like, half the categories. Anyway, myself and my friends actually made a podcast on a second channel discussing our feelings of the winners. Link in the description if you'd like to check it out. But one thing that we did actually talk about was the Crunchyroll's Best Protagonist winner, and it left us all scratching our heads. Now, I will admit, I would have gladly accepted Tanjiro or Emma, compared to Senko. Both characters are notable heroes of their own story, but I was definitely not expecting Senko to win. Having watched almost half of Dr.Stone, I can say that I am not really that big of a fan of the character or the show. He really just isn't my cup of tea. Now, before you just start thinking this isn't really a fair judgment, my friend Emilio, who has watched all of Dr. Stone and calls himself a fan, also stated how Senku does not deserve the win. So my goal for this video is to explain how, in my opinion, what makes a good protagonist and why Tohru Honda kicks Senku's butt as the best protagonist of the year. Spoilers for Fruits Basket, Demon Slayer, and The Promised Neverland. Also, Demon Slayer actually deserves the win for best anime of the year. Fuck off. It was really good. So before I explain why Tohru is the best protagonist of the year, I want to explain what makes a compelling, interesting, and likable protagonist to begin with. Going back to Emma and Tanjiro, I want to talk about their character and why they are the best part of their show. The story follows Emma as she plans her family's escape from her orphanage while being challenged by her mother and an army of demons. What makes Emma so compelling is her resolve to save her family. This 11-year-old kid is put through the ringer each episode along with her friends. Emma has all the odds stacked against her and still rises to the occasion to outwit her opponents. She even finds ways to use her mistakes to her advantage. One example of this being is when Emma and Norman visit Sister Crone to learn more information. They ask her questions they already know the answers to in order to not look as suspicious. Crone is able to read both Emma and Norman's body language, to which she discovers they are attempting to deceive her. While Emma's plan ultimately falls through, later in the story, she is able to learn from her mistakes and successfully trick her mom into thinking she has given up completely on escaping the house by isolating herself from her entire family. In a way, Emma is another example of a classic role model. Her willingness to never give in and surrender is her most powerful trait. Even if her morale is damaged, she is able to push herself in order to continue helping her family escape. Even while reading the manga, which you should totally do after this video, it's so awesome, Emma stands out as a role model in her family due to her courage and intelligence. Moving on to Demon Slayer, Tanjiro is a hardworking and gentle man who protects his demon sister in order to eventually turn her back into a human. Tanjiro begins training as a swordsman, and with each fight he gets into, he understands how demons are sad beings who usually have tragic backstories. These demons are consumed with shame or grief and have no way of conveying their emotions. This leads into why Tanjiro is such a great protagonist. While other demon slayers blindly kill their enemy, Tanjiro does so with a purpose. That purpose is to relieve demons of their suffering in order to stop their destruction and bring them closure. Tanjiro is a true hero up until the very end of each battle he takes part of. His character is the embodiment of perseverance and definitely deserves his place in the best protagonist category. While writing the script for this video, I knew it would be a disservice to not talk about Senko. Having only watched up to episode 7, I probably don't have the greatest understanding of Senko. But I will say this. His goal of saving the human race by building society from the ground up is an incredible task. Senko is a highly intelligent high school student who uses his knowledge of science to teach members of the Stone World different elements of chemistry, physics, and biology. I've seen people comment on Senko's character saying he's just a bland know-it-all who does nothing except fill the smart guy trope. Though originally being one of those people who said this, I can see that while Senko is a highly intelligent character, he, as well as Tanjiro and Emma, share some of the same personality traits. He cares deeply for his friends and always shows determination in the face of trouble. And it's important to acknowledge that even with his intelligence, he still seeks out allies to help him save the human race. These friends turn into partners and help achieve scientific advancements. Overall, Senko is a well-rounded character, though compared to Tohru, falls short. After finally finishing Season 1, I can say for certain that Tohru is the best protagonist of 2019. Here's why. As I stated before, Tohru is an extremely compassionate, sweet, and optimistic person. Her mere presence seems to radiate light that creates joy for everyone around her. Her friends U and Hanajima's lives are drastically changed by Tohru's positive influence. She accepts any of their flaws and judges them purely on their character. Once she starts living with the Soma clan, she becomes friendly with Kyo and Yuki. These seemingly closed-off boys begin to open up to Tohru because of her willingness to become friends with them. Tohru trusts in their character above all else, choosing to believe in them despite their afflictions. I mentioned previously that Tohru's ability to bring out the best in others is her most defining attribute. In each episode, Tohru meets a member of the Soma clan and learns about their life as a Zodiac member. Both the Soma clan and Tohru are able to relate based on their past experiences with traumatic events to help them become better people. Tohru becomes friends with Momiji quickly due to their bubbly personalities. Momiji, like Tohru, has gone through hell with their family life, both putting up upbeat demeanors to mask their inner conflict. Often, Tohru's actions cause others to become better people. In the case of Hattori, a man plagued with sadness over his ex-wife's mental health, he examines how Tohru is influencing both Yuki and Kyo and decides to meet her. After speaking with her, he concludes that Tohru, like his ex-wife, is a good person who is a positive influence to others and understands that after sadness comes happiness. Before her mother's death, Kyoko taught Tohru that everyone deserves to feel loved and needed. This set the stage for Tohru's character for the entire series. Tohru almost always puts others in front of herself, such as when she advises Yuki and Kyo to visit their family, rather than keep her company while she is mourning her mother, viewing herself only as a house guest and not as important as a member of their family. Her facade works on Kyo and Yuki due to their belief that Tohru is fine on her own, when in reality, she would have spent her time alone crying over her mom. Only when they rush to spend the day with her does she start to understand her feelings are important. Her kindness, when only viewing it at face value, seems one-dimensional due to the way she is presented. Often people will refer to Tohru as just some perfect character who is just nice for the sake of being nice, but in reality, her kindness actually runs deeper. Being as nice as she is, Tohru often damages her own self-worth by placing herself in situations where she disregards her own well-being so that she can be kind to others. Due to the loss of her mother, Tohru finds it difficult to voice her emotions to her friends in fear of causing them to worry about her. She does not want to potentially hurt someone with her feelings. Her fear of burdening others with her issues is extremely dangerous due to the ramifications it can cause. This flaw in her character appears frequently when Tohru is placed in situations where she perceives others as needing more attention or love rather than focusing on herself. During these early stages of the show, only when people voice their emotions that align with Tohru do we see her really get what she wants. Otherwise, Tohru will almost never voice her own true feelings. Even in the first episode, after Yuki and Shiguri offer to let her into their home, Tohru is unwilling to let herself become a guest in fear of causing trouble. Although it is worth noting that to convince Tohru to stay, Yuki advises her that her mother wouldn't want her to be outside in a tent. Throughout the show, we catch Tohru speaking up for herself and becoming more assertive. An example of this is when Yuki is being pressured by Akito, and Tohru stands up to push her away. This seemingly small act serves as a representation for how deeply Tohru cares for her friends, choosing to push away Akito to stop Yuki's suffering, rather than just talking to her. Though I believe the most important example of Tohru choosing to act on her own free will was in episode 24. Kazuma Soma arrives at the house to reunite with Kyo, though his true intention is to test both Tohru and Kyo. In the episode, we learn that as a child, Kyo's mother committed suicide because she feared Kyo's true zodiac form. She disguised her fear with love, by shielding Kyo from the outside world and making empty remarks such as, "I'm so proud of you," and "You can't go outside because you're so adorable." She is unwilling to admit her horror or shame, and this growing treatment towards Kyo caused him to resent his zodiac form and his mother, which caused him to shut himself out. Throughout the episode, the cinematography places significance on Kyo's bracelet. Though not outright stated, Kyo's bracelet is used as a device to trap his true zodiac form. When Kazuma removes the bracelet, Tohru watches as Kyo mutates into a demonic creature, unrecognizable to Kyo's previous form. Kyo glances at Tohru, knowing that his appearance is hideous and he smells awful, and runs away. Kyo is eventually found by Tohru and demands that she stay away from him and leave him alone forever, announcing that he wants none of her pity. Tohru reaches out to embrace Kyo but is cut short when he throws her away, wanting her to never see him again. As she staggers away, Kyo begins to curse his mother for not accepting his true form. Tohru does not listen to Kyo. Going against his wishes, she returns to his side and proclaims that they must return home. She says so believing that despite his appearance, Kyo is still in there somehow, and without her, he will never return home. Tohru admits she is scared. She doesn't understand Kyo's true form and realizes how little she knows about the Soma curse, but she wants to know. Tohru is firm in her choice to know more about Kyo's true form, just like her previous decisions to continue living at the Somas and carry on her mother's way of living. Tohru's love for Kyo is different from his mother's. While his mother is unable to admit her feelings of horror and lack of understanding, Tohru admits her desire to help him understand his true form, and wants to accept his flaws no matter what. By acknowledging his flaws, Kyo understands that Tohru is looking at all of him, and he wants to continue living at the house. What we learn through watching Tohru is how she comes to a greater understanding of her own self-worth. This is a story about flaws, and how one can come to terms with their own afflictions. I fucking love Tohru. She is a character who I aspire to be like, and is one of the most realistic and inspiring characters I've ever seen in anime. She is a girl who doesn't exactly know what her purpose in life is. Before her mother's death, Tohru said her purpose was to keep on living for her mother. After her death, Tohru has gone on not knowing exactly what her purpose is now. She's still a traumatized girl who is still suffering from the loss of her mother, and when she talks about her mother, it is worth noting she refers to her as if she's still alive. In the first episode, we catch Tohru saying, "Hello mother, I'm home," and when her tent is buried, she says, "Mother can't breathe in there." Tohru, when it comes to her mother, is unable to uphold a happy face and ultimately has not moved on from her death, though it is this reason why she stands out as the best protagonist. Tohru, at the end of the day, is still human. She understands that after death, life goes on, and what we have left is what the people left for us. Kyoko's lessons crafted Tohru into the person who saved U and Hanijima's lives, and saved Kyo from running away. At the end of the season, we see a character who once put everyone else in front of her to a character who was a little less broken and learning to express her desires and emotions with others and being a positive influence for others around her. And I can't tell you how many life lessons I've learned from this show. And I beg you to please give this show a chance if you haven't already. This show has brought me to tears almost every episode and consistently manages to make my day better. So, I guess what I'm trying to say is, I'm sorry, Senko. I'm sure your show and you are fantastic, but Tohru is the best protagonist for 2019 and will no doubt prove it again next season. Whew. Well, guys, this has been my first anime analysis in about a year, and I'm